The shadows across the FNAF franchise have been a rather mysterious set of characters since FNAF 2. Who are they? What are they? Where did they come from? All questions that I will be answering in this video. Discretion, this is just a theory, not a compilation of facts. But without further ado, let's explain what the shadow animatronics are in the world of FNAF. To understand what a shadow animatronic is, we must first understand what they are. According to Shadow Bonnie's character encyclopedia page, he and presumably the other shadow animatronics are comprised of Dark Remnant, aka agony or negative emotions. Now, Remnant is the paranormal substance that is the explanation to possession in FNAF. To obtain Remnant, powerful and intense emotions need to latch onto objects, with agony being the strongest form of Remnant. The best conductor for emotions is metal, which is why the animatronics are haunted. So, Remnant is just emotional energies of a person imprinted onto objects if strong enough. Basically, the stone tape theory, or ectoplasm if you've heard of them, that is. The shadow animatronics are made entirely out of negative emotions, agony, for the most part at least. For a being to be made up of entirely agony, they would need to have been born from a tragic event. Now that we know what the shadows are, how were they created? Let's start with Shadow Freddy. From what we can gather, Shadow Freddy is the purple or dark version of Golden Freddy or Fredbear. Throughout the games, he adopts the same traits as Golden Freddy, slouched over in a seated position with the same design in their respective games, including the yet larger white pupils. In FNAF 2 and 3, he is a reskin of Golden Freddy, and in FNAF 4, Nightmare, who is also Shadow Freddy, replaces Nightmare Fredbear in Nights 7 and 8. So it would stand to reason that they are connected to Golden Freddy in some way. As we know, Cassidy is the spirit that is connected to the Golden Freddy suit, and the Crying Child being the other spirit or fragments of his memories within the suit as well. So, which spirit or event is Shadow Freddy connected to? The Bite of Freddy 3 or the MCI? I believe they were created from the Bite of Freddy 3, as due to the fear and anguish CC felt throughout FNAF 4 and his death. If this is true, then it would explain their appearance as Nightmare in FNAF 4's night segments, as Shadow Freddy would both be freed from the fear radiating from Afton's experiments and Mike's nightmares from the point of view of his brothers. I don't think it's an oversight that Nightmare Fredbear and Nightmare aren't in Dittophobia. This is because either Nightmare Fredbear was used against the Crying Child in Afton's experiments, as he was the most afraid of him, or because the Fredbear plush was his best friend throughout the minigames. Or Nightmare Fredbear is exclusive to Mike's dreams, being the animatronic that took his brother's life, and Nightmare, the dark reflection of Nightmare Fredbear, is a representation of Mike's guilt, which is why Shadow Freddy takes the form of this nightmare. Though the Dittophobia stuff is simply my reasoning as to why they don't appear in the story. If they were getting power from the experiments, this could explain why Shadow Freddy helps Afton lure the classics to the back room in Follow Me, as the character would be connected to Afton and how he possibly controls him, though being under Afton's influence is purely speculation. Great, so now that we've explained Shadow Freddy, let's move on to Shadow Bonnie. Shadow Bonnie is a pitch black reskin of Toy Bonnie, excluding their white eyes and teeth. Shadow Bonnie's design has remained consistent throughout the series, of which they have appeared in FNAF 2, 3, UCN, and FNAF AR. Shadow Bonnie, I believe, is not formed from the MCI, but rather the DCI. Let me explain. After Afton kills the kids in FNAF 2, their bodies were not in the toy animatronics. The puppets with the already possessed Withered Freddy, we can assume, planned on giving these kids the gift of life, as well as the voice reads out, as such, when William deactivates Withered Freddy, the text responds with, "You can't." While yes, I do believe William stuffing the kids in the suits is what enabled the kids to possess the suits, and that despite that, a death only needs to be near an object for them to possess it, as this was how Charlie possessed the puppet. I don't think these kids possessed toy animatronics at all. Rather, parts of the Withers are used to repair the toys, which explains why they act possessed.
By now, I'm sure you've noticed the older models sitting in the back room. Those are from the previous locations, and we just use them for parts now. The idea at first was to repair them. They even started retrofitting them with some of the newer technology, but they were just so ugly, you know? And the smell.
Instead, the agony created from this event formed the entity Shadow Bonnie, which, while Scott never had this in mind when creating FNAF 2, could explain why they are in the form of Toy Bonnie. However, instead of helping William, this entity's goal is to help the trapped souls of the MCI and probably other souls find some form of peace, as the Shadow Bonnie minigame in FNAF 3 shows them handing one of the kids cake, leading them to their happiest day. This also explains why Shadow Bonnie is a guardian of FNAF AR's remnant. I only say they also help other souls because I would prefer that the MCI kids besides Cassidy are no longer present after either FNAF 6 or Fazbear Frights. But hey, maybe that's just copium. If this is how Shadow Bonnie was born, then it gives the DCI some form of impact on the story, and rather than just a group of kids that either never got their happiest day or never appeared again past their debut game. Is it biased? Sure, but I'm fairly sure Shadow Bonnie was accumulated from the DCI. Now, let's discuss what I think was born from the MCI, Eleanor. She is a tall, slender animatronic with a striking resemblance to Circus Baby, and oddly the fourth Charlie Bot in the novels. Eleanor is the main antagonist of the Fazbear Frights series, who was responsible for a lot of the stories throughout the series, including Into the Pit, To Be Beautiful, Count the Ways, Out of Stock, 1:35 AM, Step Closer, The Man in Room 1280, Blackbird, Hide and Seek, and You're the Band. In most of these stories, she set in motion the threats and the events within these stories to feed off the suffering of others to gain more power. In To Be Beautiful, she is the main antagonist of this story, giving Sarah a heart-shaped pendant, which gives Sarah the illusion she is slowly gaining the body of her dreams, only for the illusion to fall apart at the end of the story, where in actuality, her organs were replaced with scrapyard junk in order for Eleanor to gain her remnant, to use as an illusion of Sarah herself. Why? I don't know, why not? In Out of Stock, she adds the human eyes and teeth to the plush trap chaser, holds Pete down after he was hit by a truck as the autopsy takes place in Step Closer, and in The Man in Room 1280, she feeds off the agony of William Afton, trapped in UCN. But where did Eleanor come from? As I stated before, I believe her catalyst event was the MCI. Within the pages of the Stitch Wraith saga, it is brought to Larsen's attention that some of the balls were covered in blood across 3 decades, and it wasn't just blood from different people, it was blood from the same person, this person being Eleanor. In Epilogue 11, Eleanor has black blood tentacles thrashing from her from all directions, of which smelt of copper, and we know Eleanor is connected to the ball pit from Into the Pit. The story The Ball Pit centers around where Oswald travels back to 1985 via the memories haunting the ball pit. The memory in this instance is the MCI, and from this memory, Spring Bonnie, or the children's memory of Afton, manifests. I believe Spring Bonnie in this instance is Eleanor. Reason being, Spring Bonnie on the cover of Into the Pit is oozing a black substance from his eye, which is presumably agony, and it is an identical color to Eleanor's tentacles. Adding onto this, after Jake, one of the spirits in the Stitch Wraith, traps Eleanor's spirits, he travels to the ball pit to put to rest the trapped souls contained within there, which would presumably dismantle Eleanor's evil spirit. Jake shuffled across a barren dining room and made his way to the ball pit. He'd been seen in his mind's eye since he'd integrated Eleanor's remains into his consciousness. What had happened here? Where did Eleanor come from? Had she caused all of this chaos, or had the chaos somehow caused her? And considering the intro story for Frights is centered around a ball pit, which is connected to the other Stitch Line stories and the MCI, I find the possibility that event being what sparked Eleanor's life being quite high. We can even take this further by connecting her to William in The Man in Room 1280, Epilogue 7, and her desire for Remnant to gain power and eternal life, just like William's quest for immortality. Regardless, it seems Eleanor might be coming to the games and is very dangerous and powerful, as she seems to be teased or will be teased to appear in the new Into the Pit game. In the code of a site that is not active as of this video, which will be used to tease the game's release, contains a user labeled as Bexy Blackheart. Blackheart possibly referencing Eleanor as an agony creature who possesses a heart pendant made from Remnant. So this theory might get debunked or confirmed soon. Now, the next guy is debatably a shadow or agony creature, but I personally believe they are. So let's talk about Nightmare On. This will be taken from my theory of Nightmare On, so if you're interested in a more in-depth insight into the theory, check it out. Nightmare On, as the name suggests, is a nightmare version of the puppet. Their body is thinner than the already slender puppet, kind of like a charred skeleton, with small but sharp sharp teeth. I like to imagine them as ends of ice cream cones, and instead of the purple tear tracts, Nightmarion's are black, and alongside Nightmarion is their iconic tentacle fingers. In my opinion, Nightmarion was created out of the agony of UCN, where they eventually latched onto Glitchtrap, following them where they go, feeding from the agony they inflict. What makes me believe this is the name of their plush in Security Breach, Nightmare, because they were born from William's coma-induced nightmare, as well as where we find the plush collectible in the Endo Nursery, a room which reveals to us the Glamrock Endos are infected with the Glitchtrap virus, and one surrounded by moon imagery, a character associated with sleep. And if you have this interpretation in mind, it could explain what this door means, as all the doors showcase what the Endos should and shouldn't do, like a learning program, then this door should be used for the same purposes. And as we can see, depicts a girl sleeping in a hospital bed under the FNAF 4 covers, connecting the two games associated with nightmares. If they are connected with Glitchtrap, it explains why they appear everywhere the Mimic and Mimic 1 are, Help Wanted, and the UCN voice lines in Special Delivery. But could they have been created from another event? Well, considering Scott's comment on the characters from the Halloween DLC for FNAF 4 being non-canon to FNAF 4, they couldn't have spawned from Charlie's death, as FNAF 4 takes place in 1983, the same year as her death, and sometime either during or after FNAF 1, Mike has his nightmares, which would take place either in 1993 or beyond, and there are no other events which could spawn Nightmarion from the Scott era. As such, Nightmarion could either have spawned from UCM or sometime during the Steel Wall era, possibly during the All-Staff meeting or the disappearances in the Peterplex, of which there is no proof anything spawned from these events, nor anything connecting them to Nightmarion. Though, another interpretation for Nightmarion's presence is because they are a representation of Jeremy, Cassie's dad's guilt after the bite of 83. If you believe Cassie's dad, Jeremy Fitzgerald, and the Bonnie Bully are the same person. As a side note, I wanted to add onto my Nightmarion theory regarding the Nightmare Staff Bots' message in your dreams. Considering Cassie is most likely the princess, the message could be mocking her in her quest in destroying Glitchtrap, Afton's legacy. We can even apply this to the girl on the bed door, relating to the wrong action for the Endos to take, or a bad thing if you stretch it. After all, the girl does have black hair, just like Cassidy. One final thing I would like to add is the text "Wake Up" in Ruin. If Nightmarion is associated with nightmares, then this could provide context to the message. Anywho, that's a wrap on the Shadows. There are other obscure Shadow characters in the franchise, such as Shadow DD or XOR, and these guys from FNAF 3's minigames, but I don't think they're worth a segment in the video. Sorry. To sum up my beliefs, Shadow Freddy was created from the Crying Child's death in the Bite of 83. Shadow Bonnie was accumulated from the DCI's agony. Eleanor was born from the MCI, and Nightmarion from UCN, who latched onto Glitchtrap, feeding off the suffering them and the Mimic cause. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Share down in the comments, and if you enjoyed my ramblings, consider subscribing, hitting the bell, and tapping the like button. It's appreciated. And as I always say, enjoy your day/evening.